My name is Sharon Lawrence, and I'm a member of the Education Committee. I'm pleased to welcome you to Navigating the Path to Professional Excellence, updates on the Healthy Practice resource. This session will deliver key updates on FSBPT's guidelines for continuing professional development, with an emphasis on the Healthy Practice resource. The speakers for this session are Mario Baker, Preeti George, and Ann Thompson. Mario and Preeti are current members of the FSBPT's Continuing Competence Committee, and Ann served on the committee through the end of 2024. You can find their bios on the event app. They have valuable information to share, and we also encourage your participation. If you wish to ask a question during the Q&A portion, the members of the Education Committee will provide you with a microphone. Please abide by the ground rules in the program notebook so more attendees have a chance to ask questions. At the end of the session, please scan the QR code to complete your evaluation. We really value your feedback. Now I turn the presentation over to our speakers.
Thank you, and thank you all for attending this morning. We're going to talk about navigating the path to professional excellence, updates on the Healthy Practice resource. So you heard this introduced during the main sessions on what we're trying to do, and it's starting to gain some traction, and we have some exciting news towards the latter portion of the slides on the progress that we've made since we've introduced this. And again, we were just talking, this project started way back probably around 2018, and we have gotten where we want to get, and now we just have to roll this out to the regulatory boards to provide potentially what we're petitioning for CEUs to encourage licensees to use the resources. So, what are we trying to accomplish here? Well, public protection through licensee well-being and healthy practice. We call this a paradigm shift because traditionally how we look at CE is you take a course that's in a content area, and as a result of taking that course, you become, and what we're hoping you become, is a lifelong learner. But now we're trying to shift that thinking to, okay, yes, you take your courses to be proficient in your profession, but how about incorporating this idea of licensee well-being and healthy practice? And we find this to be vital to public protection. So when we think about the individual, a lot of us, and we could maybe say this of ourselves, some may say, no, this never happened to me. But we really do put our patients before us, so much so that it could be to our own detriment. We are people. Is there anybody who's a physical therapist that doesn't like people? So we all do. And a lot of times we will go the extra mile, put ourselves on the back burner, and not take care of ourselves in an effort to take care of our patients and do the best that we can. And so professional boundaries are going to be essential. And not knowing sometimes where you are with your own mental health or health in general, as you'll see the 10 modules that we'll show you later in those specific areas, can create a problem. And then that becomes a public protection issue. If you're not well, then how are you effectively treating your patients to the top level of your licensure? And so we are proposing here that you would give credit for an individual doing some self-reflection, some evaluation on a regular basis or semi-regular basis of their own well-being so that they can then treat the public in a manner that is going to be safe and effective. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ann Thompson.
Thanks, Mario. Appreciate that very much. We'll get rolling on some of the history and the development of this tool, which I think is just the credit to so many people, many in this room who have worked with this. So there are three key elements in the guidelines for continuing professional development: jurisprudence and ethics assessment. And if you were able to hear the presentation yesterday, Jeff Rosa and Lori and a couple of folks did and put it together. The Continuing Competence Committee has some oversight in the jurisprudence and ethics requirements for all of the jurisdictions. Interesting to me is that about 55% of our jurisdictions have a requirement for some type of ethics and jurisprudence assessment for new licensees, applicants, but only about 28% for renewals. So that's just a little thing to keep in mind. And one of the purposes of our Continuing Competence Committee is to try to keep that number rising, to emphasize the importance of legal practice. Certainly, practice and work skills inventory. The committee has been looking at various models there. This is an area of continual development to look at things that we can put together to develop and maintain professional competence. And then, of course, the healthy practice, which is what we're looking at here, and will be the emphasis of what we're doing today. Somehow I have slipped it into presenter view. Is that going to be a problem?
It's showing up good on the screen.
Good. So, the resources that support our continuing competence are found in the Healthy Practice Guidelines. And the Healthy Practice Guidelines are found through the FSBPT.org. There's also, you can easily access it through the taskbar that they have there. And the background and introduction to this will help you understand. So part of what we put together then for this particular initiative was to look at the evidence that was available for self-assessment, published resources that were related to self-assessment, the appropriate use of self-assessment in continuing competence. Could it be used in self-reflection for both personal and professional well-being? And what were the available measures that are out there that demonstrated evidence of reliability and validity? So is there a place for these? And the answer is absolutely. It does have some limitations, but what we find that it's most useful for is an understanding of internal experiences such as well-being, the developmental context for how we develop and look at our own development in terms of evaluating performance. Think back to your clinical days, where the first thing you would do is, as you got ready for that meeting with your clinical instructor, they'd say, rate your own performance. How do you think you're doing? And as long as people are able and willing to give thoughtful and honest answers, so they're in the able and willing category, the literature across all professions demonstrates that self-assessment is a particularly useful way to do this. And that was the basis for us proceeding with the development of the tool as you see it. It's a self-reflection on the user's professional well-being. It's a source of professional development and support based on what we found. And then as the individual self-reflects, the tool actually starts picking out resources particularly that will be useful to them, provides users with a brief feedback summary about each individual domain, but there's no domain-specific or overall summative numerical score. This is not that type of assessment. It is one that is a guide. It is done in narrative so that people will find, hopefully, comfort as they look at their scores and recognize that this is not punitive, it's not remedial, it's not an evaluation. This is a tool. This is a tool that will help guide you. It does not set quantitative standards for acceptably healthy practice. What might work for me would be very different for someone else based on their responses. It's not used as a basis for licensure decisions. It's not punitive, remember, it's not that type of an assessment. And the scores and responses are confidential. And any data that could identify an individual is only provided to the user. If you do want the continuing competence credit, you have to put in enough information to receive that. But other than that, there's nothing there that's going to identify or be linked back. So you can rest assured that it's going to be used in the right way. I want to talk just a little bit about how did we get here and how does this come together in such a way that we were able to put a resource together that we felt was well done. So basically, it was a multi-year project. The FSBPT partnered with some organizational psychologists from Colorado State University. They were well skilled in psychometrics, and they were employed to give us the scientific expertise and statistical analysis to construct and ensure the quality of of our practice tool. And then that partnership between the FSBPT staff, our committee, APTA partners, Colorado State, we used and put together known validated measures that related to the topic of healthy practice. And after that, 72 measures were identified of personal, workplace, and non-work factors that could be relative to healthy practice, with over 400 items in the initial sample. So it was a pretty bulky thing, but we wanted to start big, right? That's what you do. You don't want to miss anything. Cast a wide net. And over 400 items were identified in the initial sample, and 755 physical therapists and physical therapy assistants participated in these pilot tests. So you can see now when we say multi-year, very multi-constituent development process. So in pilot phase 1, which was rolled out in the fall of 22, 107 people completed all 10 modules. The primary statistical analyses that were done at that time gave us further information about the sample sizes needed to provide sufficient sampling for each of the modules. And that enabled us then to break the entire tool down into smaller bites, so to speak, so that we could ask people to take 1 or 2 modules and then hit the numbers in each of those so that we could get the overall statistical numbers necessary to really give a comfortable and accurate assessment of what we produce. Sorry, you're never supposed to use the word accuracy in these. A valid and reliable sample. So all in all, we had 648 people involved in that second piece, in which 1 to 2 modules were completed. And then after that, the 10 modules were put together, and our committee, staff, and partners all met in fall of 23. So a year later, we vetted every item and the modules. We revised and refined them to choose the most informative items, eliminating duplications, continuously testing internal consistency and goodness of fit, while making the most efficient model possible without losing any information, reliability, or validity. We pared it down to 10 modules, a total of 68 scales with 335 items. And the technical report for that is available at hrri.org if you want to go and look at it. But I will tell you, and I'm glad to talk about this later, but I don't want to take the time here exactly. If you want to talk about some of those measures and techniques and how we went through it, we're certainly available to do that. But when we looked at the scales that gave us the measures of reliability and validity, we were well within the range for quality assurance that what we had put together was going to work. And so once we had finished that, we basically came out with the 10 modules that you will see before you. And we selected the final items for all of those, compiled resource links for all of the modules, so that it would be relevant resources for respondents that would go into their assessment and personal results. And this provided a starting point to inform and guide the participants who took this to self-care and improvement, which is the whole point of this. So it's a good measure. It's got a lot of stuff with it to serve as resources. And the person who takes it can feel comfortable that they've had the experience which we promised them, and it's in the manner in which we promised, confidential and personalized. So we have presented previews of this at LIFE annual meeting in 24 and 25. We've also presented the results at multiple conferences and to other disciplines. The CLEAR annual meeting, which is an international regulatory body, the Combined Sections meeting, the Educational Leadership Conference, a webinar that we did in April 2025, which was an invited webinar based on some of the most popular sessions that have been held in Baltimore. There's a lot of interest in this, and a lot of other professions that are looking at this because they have come forward and said, you know, we need something like this to help our people work towards individual healthy practice and professional development. We've also presented to state boards to help make that transition into translating this tool into something that can give documentation for continuing competence. And we have gone and met with various states. Certainly, several have already adopted it. I know we have in Georgia, and we've seen other states that have come forward as well. And I say we, I'm really kind of an alumnus of the Continuing Competence Committee, but there are people on that committee and staff who are very willing and able to come out and work with you in your jurisdictions to help you put anything together necessary to give your licensees an advantage of continuing competence credit in addition to the knowledge that they'll get from the actual test. So as you can see, we've all hammered a few nails into the structure over the years, and we really have appreciated to share our progress with you at every step during the day, during the way. So now it gives me great pleasure to say the house is open, it's live, and I'm going to turn this over to Pretty George for the next part of it.
Well, thank you very much, Ann and Mario. I'm Preeti George. I'm a new member of the committee, and it's such a pleasure to be here with the committee. The committee has done a lot of work, and as you can see, it's been going on for quite some years. A lot of time and effort has been put into this. So I'm coming in the tail end of it, and I'm happy to introduce what has been come together and the Go Live session. Earlier this year, in the Leadership Issues Forum meeting, we all kind of came together, some of the committee members, and we had a chance to come up with a small video, which you guys are going to be seeing today. And it is my pleasure to play that video for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thank you.
Care professionals are probably the last to ask for help.
The last thing that we may want to admit is that our wells are dry and that we are unable to give to others what we're not getting ourselves.
We used to joke that unless we had a bone literally sticking out of our arm, we were going to go to work. You may not know you're burned out until you are. And then it's real hard to come back.
Feeling stressed and overwhelmed doesn't make an individual weak. It actually makes the individual a real person.
Clinicians need safe, private ways to check in before little problems become big ones.
Healthy practice resources and modules help identify or screen what's going on in their personal life with regards to emotional stressors or mental stressors. And these modules are great at identifying what's really contributing in work culture, what challenges are contributing to the work culture.
The tool is structured for you to look at both your own personal well-being, but also to look at the environment in which you live and work. We guaranteed them confidentiality.
It is easily available, it's free, online, it's anonymous. No one looks at the results except for you.
These modules are super easy to reach. There's a link, you click on it, it takes right to the modules.
You'll go through some questions. The resources will be provided based on how you answer those questions. And as a result of that, you have an opportunity to do self-reflection in order to improve your overall well-being.
As clinicians, we're caring more than ever, and it goes unspoken. This tool makes you stop and calls it out so that you can start taking steps in the right direction.
To ensure that you're working at your best and living at your best, because that's the best for your patients too.
The Healthy Practice Resource Tool actually brought out some things that I didn't even consider. I was able to see areas in my life that I didn't see myself when I thought I was doing okay.
Let us help you, give you an opportunity to not burn out, to keep your job, to stay in the profession that you love.
Success is keeping those who provide the care in a healthy state of being so that they're capable of giving what the patient needs most. And by being healthy, we can do that even better.
So let me say, when we presented this at the Education Leadership Conference and also the APTA combined sections, there is great interest from physical therapists, educators on using this resource. They said, where has this been for the most part, if I summarize it, and how can we access and use this? So there's already a good number of physical therapists, educators, that are interested in using the resource. And I'm very, very happy to say what you already know, all 10 modules right now are live. So you can go on the website and you can actually open up the modules and participate. The question becomes, will the regulatory agencies, the boards, open this up to continuing competence or continuing education credit? So the 10 modules consist of emotional well-being, mental well-being, as you can see, social and non-work well-being, financial well-being, the physical health of an individual, work-related well-being, work role support, benefits and wellness, practice climate, and also compassion. So we've gotten this presented at the CLEAR conference as well, which is a multidisciplinary conference. And there's some interest there between other professions on using this resource too. In Ohio, we have an occupational therapy, physical therapy, and athletic trainers board. We had a presentation on the healthy practice resource that Jeff provided, and the ATs and the OTs are like, we want to use this too. And so there's interest even across disciplines in using the healthy practice resource, which is very encouraging and nonetheless exciting. So the HRRI, the Healthcare Regulatory Research Institute, is where you're going to see most of the research that went behind this and how this was developed, as Ann talked about, posted there. In addition, you can access the healthy practice resource as well through this particular website. And here's our landing page for HRRI, Healthy Practice Resource. And so within that, you can pick one of the modules, put in the state that you're from, or you can completely go in anonymously. You don't even have to use your name or the state that you're from if you just wanted to benefit from the resource. But if you want to submit it for continuing education credit, then you have to put at least your name, the state that you're from, so that we can print a certificate at the end after you've engaged with the tool and the resources and provided some type of reflection. So we've chosen here the work-related well-being module, and you can kind of see how it's set up. Once you click on that module of the 10 modules, then you'll be able to see the introduction, sections 1, 2, results, and then the certificate of completion. These are not all equal. So the modules vary in their length and amount of questions that are asked. And this is where the boards have to decide how many CEUs are they going to offer for each of the modules. We're recommending that 1 CEU for each module as a person takes different amounts of time to engage with the resource. Some individuals may take longer than others to engage with the resource and do a true reflection. And as a result of that, it's very difficult to capture how many CEUs can you offer. So we just said as a general recommendation, and of course, boards can do what they want, that we recommend 1 CEU for each of the modules. Now, as you'll see, in just a moment, I'll pull up a slide of those individuals that have started to incorporate this. You'll see the CEUs vary. Some, like in Ohio, we say you can get 1 CEU per module, up to 4 for physical therapists, and up to 2 for physical therapy assistants in a renewal cycle. And you can see that variation throughout. So what we're trying to do is essentially to say, offer something for this type of self-reflection because it's going to promote public protection and healthy practice. So within the module, you'll see work-related well-being. There'll be instructions. Again, you put your state, you put your actual discipline, as we're trying to make this more multidisciplinary. And then it will start asking you questions. And you can see on the screen here, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. That you have, a question that's asked. And along that question, you go ahead and rate how you answer that on a scale. Again, as Ann mentioned here, there is no right or wrong answer. It's just going to spit out the appropriate resources based on how you answer those questions. And there's no incentive to be dishonest with the resource because no one's going to see this information. And we make sure of that. It is for an individual's, clinician, educator's own self-reflection. And then you'll get results at the end after you've completed those questions. And it'll tell you basically where you fell on that spectrum and what some recommendations are as a result of where you fell on the spectrum. So an instance here is job satisfaction. It'll say you're strongly dissatisfied or you're very satisfied. Based on how you answered those questions, you'll see resources that are available for you to take a read. And then after you've read those resources, you can do a reflection. And we value self-reflection, and we're promoting even in educational programs that our students become reflective practitioners. And if you start this in school, then they become that reflective practitioner when they become clinicians or educators in the future. And the more reflection we can get, the more we can identify those areas where there may be lacking or deficits that can be addressed early before the volcano erupts and everything just starts to climb on the shoulders of an individual. And then we say at the licensing board, man, we need to take their license. How did they get to this point? It didn't happen overnight, it happened over time. And this is what we're trying to head off with this particular tool. And so at the end, you get a nice certificate with your name on it if you put your name in it. And you can see it's verified and you have the completion date, and you can submit that to the board, obviously, as I've said about 5 times, hopefully for credit, okay? There's no thing there at all. And so thoughts for consideration here. Could this be used by other professions? My answer to that is absolutely. And as soon as we mentioned that we were going to start using this, the OTs and ATs said, you're not leaving us out. So they went ahead and started discussing in their own sections how they can incorporate this particular healthy practice tool as well. And then could this be used in other countries? Yeah, why not? Why not have the promotion of healthy practice across the spectrum of disciplines, but also across countries as well? So the tool has the potential, and what we're trying to do is make the resources general enough so that they can cross professions. So these are not all physical therapy resources that we're using. We want to use a wide variety of resources that can be applicable to any particular profession. And so we asked for feedback at Life in 2024, and 52% said that current laws and rules would allow for CE credit for completion of all 10 modules. There's a similar breakdown for completion of an individual module as well. And so some of the feedback for those individuals that gave some reasons people didn't answer yes on that was they needed board approval. So what we're proposing is that if we need to make a trip via Teams or Zoom to your board, that we would present the details of the healthy practice resource so that they can have a full understanding to make an informed decision. And then need more information, we're providing it. Need better understanding, we're open to that. Need a rule change. And this is where maybe some guidance can be provided. Each state is different, and you hear it all the time here. There's 53 jurisdictions, and there's 54 ways, as some have stated, of doing things. So we know that that's the case, and we're willing to see what can we do to work with your particular jurisdiction to see if the legislator will in turn promote this type of resource. But it needs to meet certain criteria. One of the criteria that was mentioned is that we need some learning objectives for each of these modules, and that makes perfect sense. We're developing those. We're in the stage of vetting those learning objectives, and we're going to attach those to each of the modules so that it suits most states' requirements for CE approval. And then, looking at quantifying time, it needs to be at least 30 minutes. As I stated before, we address this by saying how long as an estimate it would take an individual to engage with the tool, engage in the resources, and engage in self-reflection. As you know, individuals are going to go at different rates. So we do provide that estimation of time, but know that some people are going to take a longer period of time with self-reflection, and some people are going to take a shorter period of time. Some people may take a longer period of time engaging with the resources. Some will be shorter as well. But we give those estimates of time. So we did hear you on that. And in addition to that, the need for a certificate of attendance. I showed you that beautiful certificate that'll be spit right out after an individual completes the tool. And all FSBP sponsored activities are acceptable. So that's for some states, not for all states. And that even goes for some of the major conferences as well. What can we do to get the board to approve that is what we want to work through with individuals. So I'm very happy to say how many states have jumped on board already. So you can see there listed 13 states that are actually going to be using the Healthy Practice resource. So you have Arizona, California, I won't name all the states for you, but do note that if they're not using it already, they're considering using it and are looking at the steps that are necessary in order to get there. So there's interest in these particular states. As I stated before, in Ohio, we have a different kind of process. The board can directly approve something, but generally we team up with the association to make sure they're all on board, that we vetted our resources, and make sure that it's quality continuing education. Well, we did that. And they did approve it for up to 4 CEUs for PTs and up to 2 for PTAs, because we require 24 hours every 2 years for PTs, 12 hours every 2 years for PTAs. So that's part of the reason why we offer that per renewal cycle. But you can see other states that have joined in again into this effort to promote healthy practice for public protection. So here's a Slido, and I hope I didn't go too fast. There it is. So if you would take a moment to scan away. Okay. Now that you've learned a little bit more about the Healthy Practice resource, as you understand the laws and rules within your jurisdiction, would your jurisdiction grant credit for the completion of the individual modules? Again, there's 10 individual modules. And those that are falling in the not sure category, can we meet with your boards? That's going to be my question next. So that we can get some certainty on this, because we see the importance of this, especially in the day and age that we live in. And you know, you look at a lot of clinician, educator burnout. It's because we haven't taken the time to self-reflect. So thank you for your responses there. I see that there's 28 that are active. If you answered no or not sure, please identify your state and comment why this is the case. And when you've answered not sure, just let us know who you are, and let's see if we can set up a meeting with your state board to explain what the Healthy Practice resource is and how there are pathways that other states have used in order to offer continuing education credit for this particular resource. So therefore, typing and participating, you can continue to participate in that as we move on. So I'd like to introduce Preeti for the next portion of this to tell us where our committee is going.
Thank you, Maria. So, keeping in mind the feedback that we got from the live meeting from all of you, we have some work cut out, continue to do. The next steps for the committee is to kind of review the resources, review what resources and how appropriate they are, how accessible they are to the public. The second is we are going to review the timing needed to complete these modules. You know, professionals are busy people. We want to keep that in mind. We want to continue reviewing the timing needed to complete these modules. And the third the committee is going to work on is to develop the learning objectives for the modules. We are meeting next weekend, so we have some work cut out for us, and we're going to be working on these next steps. So I get to do one more slide for all of you. So if you are interested, or if your jurisdiction is interested, and your board would like to be, would like to have a presentation about Healthy Practice resource, if you can please list your jurisdiction. These can be via online or in person. I know in Michigan we had the online and it was very useful. So if you would be interested in kindly share your thoughts, that would be amazing. A few more seconds here. With that, we're coming to a conclusion of our presentation, and if you can please complete the session evaluation, we'll appreciate that. And with that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Over to your questions. So we're going to bring around the microphone.
Hi, very cool. Thank you for doing that. I already spoke with my regulator to find out if we can do it in Texas. A question, because of the need and the evidence that shows that well-being is critical, have you considered putting this forward similar to a requirement like the jab?
That is a great question, and we have not. I think when we look at the JAM, we certainly want individuals to know the laws and rules of their state, and we're making some progress there with states jumping onto that. Not all states are involved in the JAM at this particular time, so there's still a push for that. With the healthy practice, it may be a little more challenging for some states to figure out how they get through the legislator to offer this as, a reflection resource and to show the value of clinician or educator reflection, opposed to some other states who may require, like Georgia, require an ethics credit or something along those lines. So it's more of a push. I don't think we can blanketly require this across the board. It's more of an appeal to see if there's a possibility or a way that we can show the value of healthy practice, and we would be welcoming all states to participate in the use of this resource. So I don't think it's something that's practical that we can say you all have to do it, but it's something that we can certainly promote as we have. And I think, as I mentioned before, when we mentioned this briefly at a conference of therapists or multidisciplinary individuals, they're all on board and they're like, we want this for our folks. So I'm hoping that's enough to campaign and push for the use of the healthy practice resource.
Thanks, this is a wonderful resource. I think as in a lot of jurisdictions, if APTA approves this as CEUs, the state will approve it. It's an automatic sort of acceptance for CEUs. So are you going to approach APTA to get it accepted?
Thank you for the question. And this weekend, we've been talking with APTA about them pushing this out. And now that the resource is ready, one of the representatives from APTA said, we have all types of ways to push this resource out. And so I think that next step is for us to get it to them so they can promote the resource and potentially offer the CE credit for it. And as a result, many states will then have that approved for CE credit. So thank you for that question. Ohio's a different animal, unfortunately. We don't accept all APTA approved CEUs at this point. We're working on it. But outside of us, I think that's true of most every state.
So, okay. Emmanuel from Colorado. So, first of all, please do present to our board.
Okay.
Our executive director for DORA is actually here. We presented earlier, so hopefully please do.
So we have to set something up for
Yes.
sure.
So my question is, because I haven't opened the healthy practice resource questions yet. So are the questions be applicable to all therapists with different cultural backgrounds? Because I am planning to present this at the Philippine Physical Therapy Association meeting probably next year or 2 years from now. So if you said that the questions are, the healthy practice resource is applicable to other countries,
Yeah.
well, I'll probably present this to the PPTA. So if it's, are the questions applicable to the Filipino physical therapist if I'm going to present this?
My quick answer is yes. They're applicable to any therapist or practitioner across disciplines and across countries. So I think that yes, is the short answer.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Catherine, independent consultant from California. Thank you for the resource. It does sound very promising and interesting. And my question is, do you have any thoughts on researching implementation? Because I think just some of the questions that have been raised already, I think some of the states and practitioners would also be interested in seeing, oh, this did have an impact in some way. And I'm a researcher, so I know it is complicated. So I realize I'm asking a complicated question, but I also think it would be really, really terrific if we could find a way to measure something about the impact or the outcome, particularly on the professionals, and then even better, is there actually an impact on care, and so that the patients and the public in the end do benefit. And again, I'm not naive, I realize this is complicated, but I just wanted to toss that out there because I didn't see anything about future research, but I think it'd be exciting. And that just to the prior gentleman's question, I would guess that there are some cultural differences, and just to be humble enough to entertain that idea so that in the future this might have some variations for some populations as well. Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you. We'll respond real quick.
No, I think you're, you're certainly, you're right. We would like to be able to do those kinds of things, and I think that would be down the road because, particularly now, remember, we're not gathering data in certain ways because we want to be sure people are comfortable with it, and so there's not that would be a thing to put on the drawing board if we decide to do it, but we need to be mindful that that's going to be a limitation. It could be potentially done in other ways through voluntary participation. So the committee had tossed that around when we gave birth to this, and that's a great idea.
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that people didn't feel like someone was going to use this information against them. And so we don't capture any of that data, but what we do is we have them rate the resources. So we can say, if they gave it 5 stars, this is across the board, and if they gave it 2 stars, maybe that's not a great resource. Maybe we should consider discussing it and potentially getting rid of that particular resource. But that's the extent of what of the information that we capture at this time. The actual effectiveness of it will be anecdotal. We really just want people to engage with the resource, and that could lead them to avenues of other assistance that we wouldn't be able to capture, or that people maybe wouldn't be honest when they're engaging with the resource if we were to collect that particular data. So we want to keep it kind of anonymous, and we toss this back and forth. And I'll tell you why, because a lot of researchers are on the committee. We're like, what could we do with this data? But then are we going to compromise the integrity of the actual tool with people being honest with the resource? So.
In Missouri, our board can approve anything CEUs, we obviously would. But before I put this out, was there a fee for this, and if so, how much?
Nothing. It's free.
Okay.
And that's the best part.
I didn't want to put that out there.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. It's free right now. Let's put a disclaimer there. It may not always be free, but right now it's free. Yeah.
All right. So in Maryland, it's really easy because we have legislation that allows us to accept any education that's provided by FSBPT or but my question is about the CE hour, or how much credit the licensee would get. It would help us out if you provided a certificate that listed that CE hour on it, because we automatically accept it. We wouldn't have to bring it to the board each time to look at that. And that's pretty much how most self-paced or self-study courses are handled. The provider gives us the certificate. I mean, the CE hour. and we just calculate it that way.
Yeah. So it provides the credit on there.
Oh, okay.
So it's very small. It's hard to see, but it says there, credit hour 1.
Awesome.
And knowing that, even though that says that, some states, like initially our state said, I'll offer 3 for this one, 2.5 for this one, 4. We had to go back and say, hey, can we just offer 1 because people are going to engage with this resource differently. So that's our recommendation. But again, boards may take the liberty to change that. Maybe they offer a half of 1 or whatever. All we're asking is that they offer some credit, but again, it's on there that we offer at least 1 now. Yes, after each module, they'll get a certificate. And so, yeah.
Craig Miller from Michigan. Pretty, I promise I won't ask a very difficult question. And just really, it's 2 things. One is I would like to make a plug, just that I know we talk about it within PTAs while we're here, and you mentioned about it being applicable to a broad range of professions. So even when we go back, we maybe have an opportunity with our work colleagues, especially for those of us that work with, OTs, as that, maybe we can let them know that it's there because burnout applies to them as well. I can say in Michigan, we did add it, to their, the Michigan OTA conference. They had a session on burnout, and I knew who the presenter was, and they gave resources, which included a link to HRI, so that way there are other ways for us to engage in that. And then if you have the luxury and ability within your board, that when you come to present and give a fantastic presentation, by the way, try and see if you could invite other health discipline board chairs to even listen in on this session. So that's what we did. It wasn't very effective. We didn't get a lot of traction with it in Michigan, but not for lack of trying. Now my question. From an ethics standpoint, right? We know that many jurisdictions require some training in ethics. Based upon the various modules, would you see any of that being applicable? And if not, we know that burnout tends to lead to maybe some ethical infractions. Could there be a way in the future that maybe there is a module related to ethics that might help some states, even with that participation?
To explicitly state ethics is certainly a possibility and something that could be considered. We're looking at this as we want to prevent those unethical activities. So if we promote healthy practitioners, some of the ethical concerns may not be the case. And that's how we're kind of spinning it at this point. But outside of that, yeah, it's something to consider, Craig. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, yeah, stop. Stop. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.